I think I have I don't know, an outwardly love for music. I don't think there's anything that makes me feel or touch me as much as music does.
So when you think of modern R&B that feels timeless yet fresh, one name always comes to mind, and that's Snoh Aalegra. She isn't really the loudest in the room, and she doesn't rely on scandals to keep her name alive. Instead, her music speaks for itself. From her childhood in Sweden, raised by Iranian parents, to being mentored by Prince.
Prince discovered me about 3 years before he passed away. He told me he was a big fan of my voice. He said that he thinks I have an analog voice, and to me that was so crazy.
Snoh Aalegra has quite the resume. Now despite this, her tale isn't one of overnight success. It's a very slow build, marked by setbacks, reinvention, and eventual global recognition. Now despite achieving her goals and having one of the biggest cosigns in history on her back, it seems like Snoh Aalegra is not as active as she used to be. So I guess the question is, what happened to Snoh Aalegra? Now Snoh Aalegra, real name Shahrazad Foladi, was born around September 13, 1987 in Uppsala, Sweden. Her parents, Persian immigrants from southern Iran, settled in Sweden before she was born, and their move was driven by political circumstances that took place back home. After her parents divorced, she relocated with her mother to Enköping, a small town of about 30,000 people. There, she often felt different. She remembers being the only immigrant in her class, and she was very aware that she did not look like other people. Now Snoh was constantly around music. Some people say that her mom was on the piano and her dad was on the guitar. And by the time she was 9 years old, she was already in her room scribbling out her first song. Now just when Snoh was getting comfortable, she and her mom moved again, and this time to Stockholm. And in Stockholm, it was different. It was bigger, more diverse, and there was a lot more music to soak up. So while most kids her age were just figuring out what they like, Snoh was sharpening her voice, her writing, and had dreams of being an artist. Now by the time Snoh was 13 years old, she wasn't just some talented kid anymore. Sony Music had taken notice, and that's Sony Music Sweden, and they signed her to an artist development deal. Now keep in mind, no official songs dropped out of that deal, but the fact that Sony even looked at her and went, "Yo, look at this girl, she's got something," that's major. And that was basically the start of her journey. Now by 2009, she reintroduced herself under the stage name Sherry, and this version of Snoh leaned into pop and R&B flavors, and she quickly gained traction in Sweden. Her debut single Hit and Run reached number 12 on the Swedish charts. And the follow-up You Got Me Good went all the way to number 2, proving she could capture a national audience.
I shouldn't believe in you. I shouldn't have known.
In 2010, Sherry was going, "I think I've got what it takes to make it big." And then she drops her first album called First Sign, which even included a cover of Sade's Smooth Operator. Now while the song gave her visibility, people were going, she really sounds like Sade. And according to Snoh, she later said that she hadn't found her voice at that point. So by 2012, she made a very bold decision. She left the Sherry identity behind, moved to Los Angeles, and reinvented herself as Snoh Aalegra. She then began to make even bigger moves. Around 2013, she connected with legendary producer No ID, and he was going, "I really like your sound," and he signed her to his label. Now through his mentorship, Snoh began shaping her sound, which would later be called cinematic soul, a fusion of orchestra sounds, nostalgic melodies, and pure, raw emotion. So by 2014, she dropped an EP called There Will Be Sunshine, and then she hopped on Common's 2014 album Nobody's Smiling.
I do bad things to good versions of me. I find good things and bad versions of me.
Now with all of these collaborations taking place, Snoh was forming her own lane, and at the same time she was proving that she could make it in the US market. So around 2 years later, she dropped Don't Explain, an EP featuring production from No ID, Boy Wonder, and James Fauntleroy. So at this point, Snoh was generating quite a buzz, and finally in 2017, she drops her debut album Feels, featuring the track Time, and this became very significant for her career, especially when Drake sampled it on his More Live project.
And I wish time never mattered.
That co-sign was heavy, and it brought a lot of attention to her work. Then, another song of hers called Nothing Burns Like the Cold, featuring Vince Staples, got a second life.
Nothing burns like the cold day.
It was even used in an iPhone commercial, exposing her to millions of people around the world. Now, she kept on capturing this momentum because in 2019, she dropped her second album, Ugh, Those Feels again. Now, unlike Feels, which felt more amateurish, her second album felt more polished, the beats sounded like they were made for huge stars, and Snoh sounded more confident than ever. The standout single I Want You Around became her first major US hit, topping the Billboard Adult R&B Songs chart.
I want you around.
I was in a situationship early on when we started talking. We were in a club in New York, and he tried to kiss me in the middle of the club. I was like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm trying to kiss you." And I'm like, "Well, I don't want to kiss you. I just want to feel you."
Okay.
And then he texted me the day after. He sent me that line. He's like, "I don't want to kiss you. I just want to feel you. You should put that in a song."
Massive.
And I wrote, "I Want You Around."
Look at that.
Yeah.
Another key single from the album was Whoa, which gained widespread attention, especially when Michael B. Jordan appeared in the video.
It's kinda like
Now, by this point, Snoh's sound, lush, atmospheric, was drawing comparisons to Sade, but she was going like, nah, I don't sound like Sade, I sound like me. Now in 2020, the COVID pandemic happened, and while everybody was on lockdown, Snoh dropped another song called Dying for Your Love.
'Cause I was dying for this love, this love.
And while she couldn't tour because of the pandemic, she found a way to keep her momentum going while other artists were struggling to stay relevant. Then the following year, she drops another album in 2021, one called Temporary Highs in the Violet Skies.
But then you say what I wanna hear, 'cause you know it's gonna get me here every time I say that I'm.
The album was extremely ambitious and featured production from the Neptunes and had a strong collaboration with Tyler the Creator. Now, songs like Lost You and In the Moment highlighted her growth, proving that she wasn't the person that she used to be back in the day. And as a testament to this, the album earned 2 Grammy nominations. Now, on a personal level, Snoh has been open about struggling with anxiety, and this has gone on throughout her life. In fact, there were times when she was like, okay, I have to travel, I have to do these interviews, I have to do these performances, but I don't want to. I don't feel like it because I'm too anxious. In other words, the pressure to maintain her image added layers of stress she didn't want.
In Sweden, we have something called jantelagen. We don't have a real translation for it, but basically it's just like, don't feel yourself. And in America, everybody's feeling themselves. So that's something that kind of hit me in the face when I got there. Everybody's like, why are you so laid back and like chilled out when you walk in a room? Why are you not owning it? Why are you not feeling like you're the shit?
Now, culturally, fitting into the US culture was very difficult for her, and early on she felt like she had to prove herself time and time again, especially as an Iranian Swedish woman in R&B, a genre dominated by American artists. So, her story, Persian roots, raised in Sweden, breaking through in America, that story was very unique but also a barrier she had to push through. Now, by 2022, as live shows returned, Snoh hit the stage at Coachella and embarked on tours across North America and Europe. And then by 2023, she shifted her focus back to singles again, dropping tracks like Be My Summer,
Be my summer, protect me
Sweet Tea,
from my pain, drift away.
and Wait a Little Longer.
I'm not getting sleep at night these days.
She She also got nominated for a Grammy Award for the performance of Do for Love. Then in 2024, she expanded her reach globally, performing at iconic venues like the Sydney Opera House and touring in Australia and Asia. Her plan at this point was to expand her reach internationally and to prove her music transcends borders and language barriers. Now, as of 2025, she's one of the most respected voices in modern R&B. However, she hasn't dropped an album since 2021. Now at this point, some of her fans are going, maybe she's just in the lab making new music right now. So what it looks like is she's laying low until she feels like she's ready to drop an album, right? Because from the looks of things, Snoh Aalegra is not in any scandals, she's not all over the tabloids, she isn't capitalizing on many viral trends, and she seems to be only about the music. So in the end, Snoh Aalegra is more than just another R&B singer. She's a storyteller, a survivor, and a voice that represents the beauty of staying true to yourself in an industry that forces you to compromise. Her career reminds us that the setbacks are not the end, they're just pauses on the way to something greater. And as she continues to evolve, one thing is clear: Snoh Aalegra's best chapters may still be ahead of her, or at worst, we've seen the best of what she can do. On Spotify, she has about 5 million views, and her most popular songs are In Your Eyes, Do for Love, I Want You Around, Nothing Burns Like the Cold, and Law of Attraction. That's it for me. It's your boy Ali. What happened to Snoh Aalegra in your opinion? Let me know down below. Also add me on Instagram at Ali Talks Music. Till next time, peace.